The string lights shimmered above the dance floor, laughter spilling from every corner of the country estate like champagne bubbles. It was my sister's wedding, or, as my mother put it, the family's proudest day. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood near the back, my hands clutching the hem of my faded lavender dress, the only decent one I owned. The silk was worn from too many careful washes, but I tried to hold my head high. Then came the words that cut deeper than any blade. "You don't need to bring a gift, Hannah," Mom said sweetly, loud enough for the cousins nearby to hear. "We all know you can't afford it anyway." Laughter fluttered like knives. My sister, Lauren, in her white gown, smirked and whispered to her bridesmaid she should be the one receiving gifts, not giving them. Heat flushed up my neck. I forced a smile, pretending not to care. "I just came to wish you happiness," I said quietly. Dad leaned in, voice dripping with disappointment. "You should have stayed home. This day's about success, not pity." Their words echoed through the ballroom, bouncing between the golden chandeliers and polished marble. People turned to stare, some amused, some uncomfortable. I felt smaller with every glance. I took a step back, ready to slip away before my tears betrayed me. And then the room stilled. The heavy doors at the end of the hall swung open. Every head turned. A tall man in a black suit walked in, confident, sharp, composed. His presence alone shifted the air. It was like the music forgot to play. The laughter died, and even the chandeliers seemed to hum in silence. My husband, Nathan Cole. He told me he couldn't make it, some last-minute business trip, he'd said. But there he was, walking toward me with that calm, unhurried stride that made people move aside instinctively. His tie was loosened, his jaw tight. My father frowned. "What's he doing here?" Nathan reached me, brushed a tear off my cheek with his thumb, and smiled faintly. "I couldn't let you face them alone." Before I could reply, he turned to the wedding table, where Lauren and her new husband were seated like royalty. He slipped a golden envelope from his jacket pocket, placed it gently in front of them, and said, his voice steady and clear, "Congratulations. This is a house, courtesy of the woman you mocked." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Lauren's husband blinked. "Of a house." Nathan nodded. "In the hills. Fully paid. It's her gift to you." He looked directly at my parents. "From the daughter you call embarrassment. The one who's been funding your mortgage for 2 years without saying a word." My mother's face went pale. "That's not, you're lying." Nathan reached into his jacket again and laid down another envelope, this time with documents. "Bank statements. Transfers. Hannah's name is right there." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The DJ froze mid-track. The photographers just stood, cameras half lowered, unsure if they should keep shooting. I stood there trembling, caught between shock and quiet satisfaction. Lauren's voice cracked. Why would you do that for us?" Nathan looked at her, then at me, and said softly, "Because she still believes family means something, even when they forget she exists." No one spoke. The music never came back on. And for the first time in years, my parents had nothing left to say. The ballroom felt frozen, like time had stopped breathing. Everyone just stared at Nathan and me, their faces twisted between awe and disbelief. The golden envelope still sat on the table, untouched, shining beneath the chandelier. Lauren's groom, Ryan, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Is this a joke?" he muttered, his voice cracking. Nathan's gaze was calm, but unyielding. "No joke. That house is yours. Hannah bought it months ago. She wanted it to be a surprise." My mother, Margaret, pressed her trembling hands to her pearls. "Impossible. Hannah doesn't even have a steady job."
"What are you talking about?"
Nathan looked at her sharply. "She runs the design company you brag about to your friends, the one you always call that brilliant new startup." Her lips parted. "Cole Design Group?" I nodded quietly. "Yes, Mom. That's mine." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. My father's face went pale, then red, then white again, like his pride couldn't decide which emotion to wear first. "You're lying," he said hoarsely. "You barely made it through college." "I built something from the ground up," I replied, voice trembling but steady. "While you laughed at me for selling sketches online, I was signing clients, designing homes, and paying off your mortgage behind your back." My mother's hand slipped from her pearls. The clatter echoed in the quiet. Lauren shot to her feet, anger flashing in her eyes. "You think this makes you better than me? Throwing money around to humiliate us." Nathan stepped closer, his tone low but commanding. "She didn't come here to humiliate anyone. She came to celebrate, even after the way you've all treated her." Lauren's lip quivered. "You're lying. She's always been jealous of me." I shook my head slowly. "Jealous? I used to envy how loved you were, how everyone adored you. But today, I just feel sorry." Her groom shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between us. "Lauren, maybe we should."
Don't, she snapped.
"Don't you dare take her side." Nathan placed his arm around my shoulders, calm as ever. "Let's go, sweetheart. We've said enough." We turned toward the exit, but my father's voice cracked through the tension like a whip. "Hannah, stop." I froze. Robert's tone had changed. It wasn't anger anymore, but something rawer. "Why didn't you tell us? Why would you help us after everything?" I turned back slowly, eyes stinging. "Because I couldn't hate you. No matter how much you hurt me, you're still my parents. I wanted to believe I could earn your respect. But I finally understand. Love shouldn't have to be earned." My mother's chin trembled, but she said nothing. Lauren looked away, suddenly quiet. Nathan guided me toward the door, his hand steady on my back. As we stepped into the cool night air, the faint hum of music resumed behind us, softer, hesitant, like the party had forgotten how to celebrate. Outside, under the starlit sky, I finally exhaled. My hands shook, not from fear but release. Nathan turned to me, his expression gentle. "You handled that with more grace than they deserved." I smiled faintly. It wasn't revenge. It was truth. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. And truth always wins. Behind us, through the tall glass doors, I saw my parents standing silently by the table, staring at the golden envelope. Lauren clutched her bouquet, her smile gone. For once, the people who always had the last word had nothing left to say. The next morning, the wedding headlines were everywhere, not in newspapers, but on social media. Guests had filmed the moment Nathan revealed the truth, and the clips had spread like wildfire. Bride's poor sister gifts a house. Family humiliated by daughter's secret success. By the time I woke up, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Dozens of missed calls. Half from people I barely knew, classmates who once ignored me, neighbors who used to whisper, suddenly wanting to catch up. Nathan set a cup of coffee on my nightstand. "You're trending, sweetheart," he said softly, an amused smile tugging at his lips. I groaned, pressing a hand to my face. That's the last thing I wanted. He leaned against the doorway. "Maybe. But sometimes truth travels faster than lies." I sipped the coffee, my heart still heavy. I didn't want revenge to define me. I just wanted peace, a chance to breathe without constantly proving myself. Then came the knock on the door. Sharp, reluctant. Nathan opened it. My mother stood there, her eyes puffy, her hair slightly undone, a sight I'd never seen in her carefully curated world. "Hannah," she said softly, "can we talk?" Nathan nodded, gave me a reassuring look, and left us alone. I motioned her to sit, but she stood instead, wringing her hands. "I didn't sleep all night," she confessed. "The things we said to you, they were cruel. I don't know what we were trying to protect, maybe our pride, but that pride cost us our daughter." Her voice cracked, and for a brief moment, I saw not the woman who looked down on me, but a mother struggling with regret. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "But your father and we always thought success came with appearances, not hard work. You proved us wrong." I stared at her, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to scream, part of me wanted to cry. Mom, I said quietly, I never wanted your approval because of money. I just wanted you to see me, really see me. She nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I see you now, Hannah. Just then, Lauren appeared behind her, arms crossed, her voice small. I shouldn't have said what I said yesterday. I met her gaze. You didn't just say it, Lauren. You meant it. Her eyes filled with tears. I did. But when Ryan showed me the deed you gave us, I realized how little I deserved it. I can't accept that house. It doesn't feel right. I shook my head. Keep it. Maybe it'll remind you that kindness doesn't need witnesses. She blinked, stunned. After everything I did to you? Especially after that, I said simply. I don't want to be like you were yesterday. My mother sniffled. Your father's in the car. He's too ashamed to face you yet. I gave a faint smile. Tell him he doesn't need to apologize. He just needs to stop measuring worth in wealth. When they left, Nathan came back in, watching me quietly. You didn't have to forgive them, he said. I sighed, leaning into him. Forgiving them isn't for them. It's for me. I spent too long carrying their judgment. I'm done letting it define me. He kissed my forehead. Then you've already won. I smiled softly.
No.
We did. Outside, the morning sun spilled across the quiet street, golden and warm, the kind of light that feels like a new beginning. For the first time, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt free. 3 days later, the world had already chosen its side. People who once ignored me now filled my inbox with praise. Journalists requested interviews, and even local news stations wanted to feature the woman who stunned her family at her sister's wedding. But I didn't reply to any of them. I wasn't chasing attention. I was chasing closure. Nathan was sitting at the kitchen island when I walked in, his laptop open, steam rising from his mug. You're all over the news again, he said, scrolling through headlines. They're calling you the quiet millionaire. I rolled my eyes with a tired smile. That's ridiculous. I'm not a millionaire. He tilted his head. Technically, you are. I laughed softly, shaking my head. Then I guess I'm a very tired one. Before he could reply, the doorbell rang. Nathan frowned. You expecting someone? I wasn't. But when I opened the door, my father was standing there. He looked older, not by years, but by regret. His shoulders slumped, his tie slightly loose, his pride nowhere in sight. Dad, I whispered, startled. Hannah, he said quietly, removing his hat like a man entering a church he'd abandoned for too long. Can I come in? I nodded, stepping aside. He looked around the house slowly, the one I'd bought with my first major project. His eyes softened at the photos on the walls. Nathan and I at our small wedding, my first office, a snapshot of me painting designs on my old tablet. I never asked about this place, he said finally. Never even thought to ask how you built all this. I just assumed you couldn't. I crossed my arms gently. You didn't want to believe I could. He nodded, guilt heavy in his eyes. You're right. I was wrong. Silence filled the room, thick and fragile. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. Your mother wrote this, he said. She couldn't face you again, but she wanted you to have it. I opened it slowly. The handwriting was shaky, her usually perfect cursive now uneven, raw. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel small. I thought protecting our image was protecting you. But all I did was push you away. I see now that real strength doesn't wear pearls or hide behind pride. It stands quietly and proves the world wrong. You did that. I'm proud of you, Hannah. Truly. Tears blurred the words before I could finish reading. Dad's voice broke. Your mother, and I forgot what matters. We measured love in dollars and status, not character. You changed that. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to change you. I just wanted you to see me. He nodded, eyes glassy. I do now. I see you clearer than ever. Nathan placed a hand on my back, silent but steady. Then Dad sighed. We sold the car. The big house too. We're starting over. Lauren and Ryan moved into that home you gave them. They're trying to make things right. I smiled faintly.
Good.
Maybe now we can all breathe again. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket again and held out a small velvet box. Inside was a thin gold bracelet, the same one Mom used to wear every Sunday. She wanted you to have it, he said softly. She said it belonged on the daughter who earned everything herself. My breath caught. For years, that bracelet had symbolized distance, a reminder that I wasn't the daughter she flaunted to her friends. And now it meant something entirely different. Tell her thank you, I whispered, slipping it on. He smiled, a real one this time, warm and humbled. You were always the heart of this family, Hannah. We just didn't see it until the lights went out. Before he left, he looked back at me one last time. You didn't just give Lauren a house. You gave all of us a second chance. After he drove off, I stood by the window for a long moment, the morning sunlight catching the gold around my wrist. Nathan came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You okay? He murmured. I nodded, eyes on the horizon. I think I finally am. He kissed the side of my head. You know, you could have just skipped the drama and handed them a gift card, he teased. I laughed, leaning back into him. Maybe. But sometimes, people don't listen until truth knocks them to their knees. He smiled. And you delivered it perfectly. That evening, as the sun dipped low, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't reporters or distant relatives. It was Lauren. Her message was simple. Thank you for not giving up on us when we didn't deserve it. I stared at it for a moment, then typed back. Just make sure no one else ever feels the way I did. That's all I ask. As I hit send, I realized something. It wasn't revenge that satisfied me. It was peace. The kind that comes when you stop proving and simply start living. And as Nathan dimmed the lights and drew me close, I finally understood. Sometimes the best revenge isn't humiliation. It's showing them you never needed their approval to shine. The laughter that once mocked me was gone. The silence left behind? It was beautiful. You're just a nanny with a dream. My sister screamed it while bouncing her baby on her hip, her voice slicing through the backyard like a lawnmower blade catching a stone. The laughter came fast, my uncle choking on a swig of beer, my cousin slapping his thigh like he'd heard the joke of the century, and my mother pressing her wine glass to her lips to hide the smug smile forming underneath. And me? I stood still beside the grill, hands folded politely in front of me, pretending I hadn't just been reduced to a punchline. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Emily, don't take it personally, my mother said with faux sympathy, her southern twang dipping sweet like poisoned honey. A woman your age, watching someone else's kid while dreaming of what? Writing a children's book. Her laugh was quiet but sharp. That's adorable. My knuckles tightened around the napkins I held, the edges of the paper digging into my palms. I'd come to this family barbecue in good faith. I wore a floral sundress, kept my hair neat, brought peach cobbler from scratch, and yet it only took one sentence from Jessica to undo everything. Dream big, sis, Jessica smirked, tipping her glass. But maybe dream realistic next time. I heard that word again, nanny, like it was synonymous with invisible. Or helpless. Or less than. Never mind that I'd helped raise her child while she went on yoga retreats and spa weekends. Never mind that I worked 12-hour days for a man who trusted me more than his own family. Never mind that I'd once sold my car to keep my sister's lights on, and she never even knew. I said nothing. Not because I was weak, but because I knew what was about to walk through the garden gate. The second the latch clicked behind me, I felt it. Every head turned as his polished shoes touched the patio. He didn't say a word at first. He just walked straight past the confused stares and shocked faces and stopped at my side. Nathan Hale, the man I had worked for, the man I'd kept secret, the man who now, in full view of my family, took my hand and laced his fingers with mine like we'd done it 1,000 times before. My sister's face fell. What is he doing here? She stammered, shifting her baby to the other hip. Nathan didn't even glance at her.
He looked only at me.
I couldn't let you face them alone, he said softly. And then he turned toward the rest of the backyard.
Calm.
Collected. Unshakable. She's not just your nanny, he announced. She's my wife. Silence. Even the birds seemed to hush. She's what? My mother breathed. Nathan pulled something from his coat, crisp, folded, and deliberate. He handed it to Jessica. Also, he added, this is the deed to your house. As of today, it's no longer in your name. Jessica stared down at the paper like it had turned to flame in her hands. Nathan smiled slightly. It's in hers now. The baby started crying. But no one moved. No one laughed. Not anymore. You're lying, Jessica finally whispered, her voice shaky but trying to sound confident. This is some joke, right? She looked around for backup, but even the relatives who'd laughed the hardest earlier were suddenly silent. A few stepped back. Others looked down at their drinks. No one moved to defend her. I stayed still. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I let the silence stretch, heavy and necessary, because this family only understood power when it showed up with paperwork and a diamond ring. Nathan gently squeezed my hand. Do you want me to explain, or would you rather? My eyes met Jessica's. I saw panic blooming fast, panic I'd worn on my own face for years growing up under their weight. But I didn't blink. I think I'll take it from here, I said. I stepped forward. Past the table covered in deviled eggs and sweet corn. Past my uncle who once told me no man would marry a woman who changed diapers for a living. Past my mother, who still looked like she hadn't fully inhaled since the word wife left Nathan's mouth. You all wanted a story, I began. Let me give you one. I turned to my sister. Remember last year? When you and Brian defaulted on the mortgage? When you told everyone you'd figured it out? That was me. I made the call. I wrote the check. Nathan and I had just gotten married in private. You know why I didn't say anything? Because I wanted to see who you all really were when you didn't think I had anything to offer. Jessica opened her mouth, but no sound came. You mocked my job, but I raised your son when you couldn't be bothered. You laughed at my dreams, but I wrote every night after putting your baby to sleep. You said I was nothing. My voice cracked, but only for a second. You all did. I turned toward my mother. You said I was too soft, too emotional, a burden with fantasies. Remember that. Her lips parted, but I kept going. Nathan saw what none of you ever did. He believed in me. Not because I was his employee, because I was a fighter. And when we fell in love, we decided to do it quietly. Build something real. Away from this circus. Nathan stepped forward again. And now we're building a life together. This house. He nodded at the paper in Jessica's shaking hand. Emily didn't take it out of cruelty. She bought it legally because your loan was falling apart and you were lying about it. She saved you without your knowledge. And when you bragged today like she was beneath you, we decided it was time you knew the truth. Jessica's knees gave a little. She had to lean on the patio table. Her baby started crying again, and this time, even the sound didn't pull any sympathy from anyone watching. My aunt spoke up from the back. Emily, is this true? You saved her house. I nodded. She was days away from foreclosure. And then out of nowhere, my father spoke. Well, if you're married now to him, he paused, glaring at Nathan like he was the devil in a suit. Don't come crawling to us for anything when it ends. I turned slowly to him. Crawl? I repeated. I haven't asked you for a single thing in 10 years. You all closed that door long ago. The only difference now is I've stopped waiting for you to open it again. It was like a fire was ripping through every inch of the backyard. But no one moved. They just watched. Watched the girl they thought would always stay quiet rise and take back the story. I took a deep breath. The wind blew through my hair. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a shadow in this family. I felt like the storm they never saw coming. Jessica hadn't sat down since the moment Nathan walked in. Her hands trembled as she tried to hush the baby now fussing in her arms. Her husband, Brian, stood off to the side like a man who just realized the ship was sinking, and fast. And my mother? She kept adjusting her bracelet, pretending this wasn't the most humiliating afternoon of her life. I should have felt satisfied. I should have soaked in their shame like sunlight. But instead, I just felt tired. Nathan noticed. He leaned closer to me and whispered, "You want to leave? I'll have the car brought around." I shook my head slowly. Not yet. Because this wasn't about a dramatic exit. This was about the reckoning. I stepped toward the center of the patio where all eyes could see me. I know what you all think. That I'm the soft one. That I ran away to play nanny, while the rest of you built real lives. But let me remind you of something. Your real lives? They're built on borrowed time, bad credit, and fake smiles. A low murmur rolled through the crowd. I kept going. Jessica acts like royalty, but she couldn't pay her utility bills without someone bailing her out. Brian? He's still lying about working from home. I've seen the past due notices in their trash. Don't act like you're better than us, Jessica snapped, her voice rising again. You married rich. That's it. That's all you are now, someone's trophy wife. Nathan stepped forward again, but I held up a hand.
No.
Let me handle this. I locked eyes with her. I wasn't looking to marry anyone. I fell in love with someone who respected my work, my mind, my heart. Someone who read my first manuscript and told me it was publishable, not laughable. Do you even remember the last time you believed in something? Jessica's jaw clenched. You've always needed people to fail, so you can feel tall. But that ends today. Then I turned to the others. If anyone here ever wondered why I disappeared for holidays, or didn't call back, or never brought anyone to dinner, it wasn't because I was ashamed of my life. I paused, letting the air hang heavy. I was ashamed of this one. Complete silence.
Even the kids stopped playing.
And then, finally, my father stood up.
Slow.
Deliberate. He looked at me for a long time. And for once, there was no mockery in his eyes. Just discomfort. Like someone who'd been handed a mirror after decades of living in darkness. You always had a flair for the dramatic, he said at last. But I'll give you this, you were always stronger than I thought. A half admission.
But still not enough.
You thought I was weak because I cried, I said softly. Because I forgave. Because I kept hoping you'd show up for me the way I kept showing up for all of you. I looked around the yard. You all wanted a puppet. Someone to play the part you assigned her. But I rewrote the script. And now, I don't need your applause. I just needed you to see me, one time,
clearly.
Before I go. Jessica stepped forward, her face red. You're not going anywhere with my house. It's not yours anymore. I cut in. And I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to be free. I took Nathan's hand. And I've never felt lighter in my life. The car was waiting at the curb. Sleek, black, windows tinted, like the future I'd never been invited into, but built myself brick by brick behind their backs. Nathan nodded to the driver, but didn't open the door. Not yet. He stood by me, quietly protective, but with the same look he'd given me the first time he ever read my notebook cover to cover. Admiration. Respect. Love that didn't need to speak loud to be heard. Jessica wasn't finished, though. She stormed across the patio, shoved the baby into Brian's arms, and came right up to me. Her eyes were burning, but behind the anger, I could see it. Fear. The kind of fear that only surfaces when someone realizes the pedestal they stood on wasn't real, it was borrowed. This is revenge, isn't it? She hissed. You've been waiting to humiliate me. I tilted my head slightly, watching her face.
No, Jessica.
If this were revenge, you'd be living out of a motel, and I'd be watching from a window. I stepped closer. This is just truth. And truth stings more than payback ever could. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. No witty comeback. No loud defense. For the first time in my life, my sister didn't know what to say. And then my mother stepped in. Always perfectly dressed, always hosting, always playing queen bee even in her silence. But her eyes, God, her eyes were wide now. Not with shock. With something closer to recognition. You married him, she said, almost in disbelief. as if it wasn't the deed, or the new last name, or the ring that stunned her, but the possibility that someone she dismissed had outgrown her grasp. I nodded. And he respects me, I said. Not just as his wife, but as someone who never stopped fighting for her own worth, even when her own mother told her she had none. She winced.
Good.
You always said dreams don't pay bills, I continued. But mine did. I sold my book last week. It's going into production. And guess what? The dedication page doesn't mention a single one of you. That one cut. I could see it. And still, none of them said sorry. Not one of them. Because apologies require reflection. And they weren't built for that. They were built for image, appearances, denial. Nathan opened the car door for me. I stepped inside. But just before I sat down, I turned back. To anyone who ever made me feel invisible, I said clearly, "This is your final look. I hope it lasts." Jessica turned away, arms crossed. My mother blinked too fast. Brian looked like he wanted to disappear. My father stood there stiff as concrete. But no one said a word. No protest. No fake hugs. Just silence. And I realized then that silence was louder than any applause. We pulled away from the curb in silence, Nathan's hand resting over mine as the car glided down the road. The backyard was behind us now. So were the sneers, the whispers, the years of being the family's afterthought. It was over.
Not just the party.
The chapter. And something about that made the air feel different, lighter. Like I could finally breathe without holding back the exhale. I turned to Nathan. Was I too harsh? He looked at me the way he always did, like every part of me, even the uncertain ones, deserved to be seen. You were honest. They just weren't ready for it. I smiled faintly. I think I've waited my whole life for today. He leaned closer. They weren't laughing when I called you my wife. I laughed. A real one this time. The kind I never got to have at family dinners. That night, I sat by our balcony window, watching the city lights twinkle. My laptop was open, manuscript file still glowing on the screen. I wasn't writing. I didn't need to. Not tonight. Because tonight wasn't about creating. It was about becoming. I'd spent years surviving, smiling through insults, babysitting through judgment, writing in stolen hours between everyone else's chaos. And I'd done it quietly, praying someone would notice. But no one ever did. Until Nathan. He'd noticed when I stayed late just to clean spilled juice off the kitchen tile without being asked. When I jotted story ideas on post-it notes between nap schedules. When I read bedtime stories in voices animated enough to make even his tired, hardened heart soften. He didn't just see me. He chose me. And I'd chosen myself, finally, by no longer shrinking to fit the role my family shoved me into. A few days later, a package arrived at our penthouse. No return label. Just a slim envelope tucked inside with handwriting I recognized immediately. Jessica. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a photo of us as kids, me and her, barefoot in the backyard, covered in mud, laughing so hard our eyes were closed. Taped to the back was a note. I didn't know I was becoming the person who would hurt you. I'm not asking for anything. Just thank you. For saving my house. For still showing up, even when we didn't deserve it.
Jessica. I stared at it for a long time.
Not forgiveness. Not redemption. But something real. And sometimes that was more than enough. The following week, I sat in front of a packed bookstore. My first reading. My first published novel. The crowd was quiet as I closed the last page and looked up. I used to think I needed permission to matter, I told them. But you don't need a title, or a ring, or approval to be enough. You just need to remember that quiet doesn't mean powerless. A woman in the front row teared up. And as the room filled with applause, I realized they might have called me just a nanny with a dream.
But now,
I was a wife, an author, and finally my own damn story. I didn't even have time to set down my glass before the burn hit. Sharp, public, and intentional. Wow, look at everyone showing up for Lily, my sister Madison said loudly, raising her champagne. Some people are just lucky. Others, her eyes slid to me. Well, let's just say not every bride gets a crowd. A few relatives chuckled. My jaw clenched so tight I felt a tremor run through my cheek, but I kept my smile small and steady. If they thought that was going to break me, they truly had no idea who they were talking to. Because while they clinked glasses and whispered about how small and quiet my upcoming wedding would be, I had spent the last 6 months planning something they couldn't even imagine. Something that would make tonight's ballroom, packed with gold decor and overenthusiastic cousins, look like a backyard barbecue. But I didn't let that show. I just sipped my drink like her words rolled right off me. Truth was, my life had never been the one they bragged about. Madison was the golden child, daughter with a pristine job, perfect fiancé, flawless record of being the family's superstar. I was always the one they tossed little digs at. She works too much, she doesn't socialize, she'll never pull a big wedding together on her own. But they didn't know the biggest detail of all. My fiancé, Carter Hayes, was the founder of an oceanfront resort chain. He wasn't flashy and didn't flaunt it, so my family assumed he was some regular guy who probably drives an old sedan. They would learn, and I would enjoy every second of that learning process. The music shifted and Lily, the beloved, always praised cousin, floated past in her wedding gown, glowing. I smiled genuinely at her. It wasn't her fault that our family's hobby was comparing everyone like they were entries on a scoreboard. "Haley," Lily said softly, pulling me aside. "Ignore Madison. She's just jealous your ceremony is next week." "I'm good," I told her. "Really?" But inside, my chest was a tight knot, not from sadness, but anticipation. Madison drifted by again, leaning into a group of aunts. "I mean, what's the point of sending invitations if no one's going to show up?" She laughed. The knot inside me snapped. I turned slightly, my voice calm. "You'd be surprised who shows up for me." She blinked, taken aback by how steady I sounded. "Sure, Haley," she said mockingly. "Keep dreaming." An older uncle chuckled. "Don't make it too fancy, kiddo. You might overwhelm yourself." "Overwhelm myself?" Oh, if only they knew. But I didn't fire back. I didn't have to. Their own assumptions were going to detonate right under their feet soon enough. The night dragged the way family events do when you're the designated target. Every conversation felt like a test. Every laugh seemed a little too pointed. Every side glance at me carried this smug expectation that I would crumble. But instead, I floated through it, quiet, patient, almost serene, because I knew the clock was ticking towards something they couldn't possibly picture. Near the end of the reception, as guests prepared to leave, I stepped outside for some air. The hotel lights shimmered on the pavement, warm and golden. My phone buzzed. "Carter, everything is set for tomorrow. You sure you're ready for this?" A grin spread across my face. "Me? More than ready. Carter, I'll pick you up at noon. You won't walk into that ceremony alone." My heart softened, not because of the message, but because of him. He was the only person who had never treated me as less. He didn't care that I didn't have a brag-worthy job or a massive social circle. He loved me, supported me, and gave me space to become someone stronger. Tomorrow would be our rehearsal ceremony at the coastal venue, an event small enough to not trigger any family pressure, but large enough for the staff to test everything. Everything. Including the parking staging. Including the live stream system. Including the helicopter pad. I caught my reflection in the window. My eyes weren't sad. They were focused. Laser sharp. This wasn't revenge out of spite or pettiness. This was reclaiming something they had spent years stomping on. My worth. The next afternoon arrived faster than expected. Ocean air whipped my hair as I stepped out of the SUV, the waves crashing against the rocks beside the ceremony platform. Staff members scurried around, checking lights, cables, and cameras. "Ms. Brooks." A woman in a headset approached. "The live stream team wants to confirm your timeline." "Absolutely," I said, taking the clipboard and flipping through. This wasn't some small backyard event like they assumed. This was a full-scale, professionally filmed, internationally streamed wedding. Because when Carter proposed, he told me, "If I'm marrying the woman I waited for my whole life, The world is welcome to watch." I told him it wasn't necessary. He said, "It's not necessary. It's what you deserve." That single sentence rewired something inside me forever.
And now?
Now I was going to walk down a glass aisle suspended over the water, surrounded by an ocean horizon and 1,000 soft lights. The staff walked me down the platform to the spot where the aisle began. The view stretched endlessly, blue waves shimmering under the afternoon sun. "You okay?" one of the coordinators asked. "More than okay," I said. Then I saw it, cars beginning to line up on the cliffside road. Not 5, not 10, dozens. Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. A line of luxury vehicles so long it wrapped around the hill like a jeweled ribbon. The coordinator whispered, "Wow, they all came early." All of them, Carter's business partners, influencers who adored the resort brand, local VIPs he had helped over the years, and event sponsors who wanted to support him. And they were here for us. My throat tightened, not out of pain, but out of everything opposite. Madison had mocked me in front of everyone. But by sundown tomorrow, she'd see over 300 luxury cars filling the coastline. And when the live stream went live to 2.5 million viewers, she'd realize the thing she underestimated most.
Me.
By the time the sun dipped into the waterline, the cliffside road looked like a luxury car convention. I stood at the balcony of the venue, clutching the railing as headlights stretched into the distance, silky streaks of silver, gold, and obsidian. Carter stepped beside me, sliding his arm around my waist. "Still think no one's going to show up for you?" he teased softly. I let out a quiet breath that trembled a little. If Madison could see this now. "Oh, she will," he said. "Trust me." We hadn't sent my family the rehearsal details, only the actual wedding day schedule. But I knew how my family worked. They loved gossip. Too much. Someone would leak a picture before the night ended, and tomorrow would be chaos in the group chat. "Timeline ready?" Carter asked. "Almost. Livestream team wants a sound check in 10. "You're doing amazing," he told me, kissing my temple before heading off. I watched him go, that steady confidence in his stride. People often mistook him for quiet or simple because he didn't brag, but he was a powerhouse, built his business from the ground up, treated people right, and never let money change who he was. The type of man my family had no idea existed. A coordinator hurried toward me. "Ms. Brooks, the drone crew is in position. They'll capture the entire drive-up line." A slow smile spread across my face. Perfect. I made my way down the glass aisle, my dress fluttering behind me, when my phone buzzed violently in my hand. I checked the screen. "Madison, why are people posting pictures of a luxury car line outside some beach venue? Is that you?" "Haley, answer me." I didn't. I slid my phone into my clutch and kept walking. Because tonight wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about proving myself right. As the rehearsal began, the soft glow of golden lights illuminated the platform. The waves shimmered underneath us, gentle but powerful. Every vendor moved with precision. Every detail was flawless. The photographer approached me mid-walk. "Haley, look left. Yes, perfect. You're natural." I wasn't. I just felt free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't shrinking to fit inside someone's low expectations. Halfway through rehearsal, one of Carter's business partners approached me, an older woman named Rebecca in stylish reading glasses. "Haley, I just wanted to say, Carter's never looked as happy as he is planning this wedding with you. He talks about you like you put the stars in his sky." My throat tightened. "Thank you. That means more than you know." "He chose right," she added. "And you? You're going to walk into that ceremony tomorrow with the entire coastline cheering for you." I laughed lightly. "I hope it's not too much." She shook her head. "Honey, this is what happens when you treat people well. They show up." Behind her, more cars rolled in, their headlights sweeping across the ocean like moving constellations. This was really happening. Later, after rehearsal ended, Carter and I walked down to the shoreline. The moonlight cast silver ripples across the water. My shoes dangled from my fingers. I let the waves lap at my toes. Carter looked at me with that soft seriousness he reserved only for quiet moments. Tomorrow, we're starting our life together. I don't care who shows up. I only care that you're the one waiting for me at the end of that aisle. I'll be there, I whispered. And I'll be the luckiest man alive. We stood there, waves brushing our ankles, luxury cars glowing behind us, my phone buzzing nonstop in my clutch, but I didn't reach for it. Madison could wait. Tomorrow, she'd see everything. And she'd finally understand. I wasn't the quiet sister. I was the underestimated one. And I had just rewritten the ending. The next morning, the group chat was already exploding before I even opened my eyes. Missed calls. 27 messages. 3 voicemails. All from Madison. I didn't bother listening. I just set my phone face down on the counter and let the makeup artist start her work. You're glowing already, she said as she brushed soft shimmer along my cheekbones. That's because today's the day, I replied. Outside my suite window, I could hear the engines of arriving cars, smooth, expensive hums layered over the sound of waves. The parking coordinators whistled and directed drivers, and every now and then someone shouted, "Another McLaren," or "2 Bentleys incoming." By noon, the coastline was filled again, hundreds of luxury vehicles sparkling under the sun. And then came the messages from relatives. Not insults, not snide comments, but disbelief. Aunt Maria. Haley, what is this? Uncle Dan. This venue is insane. Cousin Jenna. Are we supposed to be here? Is this real? Finally, one from Madison. Madison, why didn't you tell us it was this big? I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because the woman they used to talk down to didn't owe them explanations anymore. The coordinator stepped inside. Ms. Brooks, we're ready for your entrance. My heart thudded once hard. This was it. I stepped into the hallway, my gown flowing behind me like soft cloud layers. Carter waited at the end of the glass aisle with his back turned, hands folded, chest rising steadily. When he finally turned to me, his expression melted into something warm and speechless. His eyes glistened, just for a second. You look, he exhaled. Haley, you look unbelievable. Before I could respond, gasps rippled from the seated guests. A low hum rolled through the crowd. Admiration, not judgment. Cameras clicked softly. The ocean breeze lifted my veil. The live stream counter on the large screen beside the platform jumped rapidly. 200,000 viewers. 900,000 viewers. 1.8 million. 2.1 million. 2.4 million. Every guest murmured, stunned. Somewhere in the crowd, I spotted Madison. She was frozen in her seat, lips parted slightly, eyes wide like she was seeing me for the first time in her life. Our gazes locked for half a second. But instead of looking away, I lifted my chin, not out of arrogance, but out of the quiet strength I had earned. She swallowed hard. Her expression flickered, confusion, envy, maybe something like regret. As I reached Carter, he held out his hand. You ready? He whispered. More than ready. The officiant smiled. Let's make this moment beautiful. And with those words, the ocean breeze, golden sunlight, and the soft rustle of my gown all felt like pieces of a story finally coming together. Madison's voice, once so sharp, finally faded into the background, replaced by applause, cameras, and the undeniable truth. This was my moment, and everyone was here to see it. The ceremony unfolded like something pulled straight from a dream, soft music drifting over the water, sunlight scattering across the glass aisle, and gentle waves echoing beneath our feet. I barely processed the words being spoken. All I could feel was Carter's steady hand wrapped around mine. When the officiant announced, "You may seal your vase," Carter leaned in, touching his forehead to mine first, just a second of quiet grounding, before kissing me softly. The guests erupted in applause. Camera shutters clicked like rainfall. The live stream counterflashed. 2.5 million viewers watching live. That number alone could have knocked the breath out of me. The girl my family used to tease for being forgettable had just had one of the most watched weddings on the internet that day. As we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, petals floating in the wind, People cheered. Some I knew, some I didn't. But every face glowed with genuine happiness. Except one. Madison stood near the side railing, hands clasped tightly, her expression unreadable. When her eyes finally met mine, she stepped forward hesitantly. Haley, her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I didn't know it was going to be like this. I kept my posture straight. You never asked. She swallowed, glancing at the coastline filled with luxury cars, the massive production, the elegant details. I was wrong. About everything. I shouldn't have said what I said at Lily's dinner. A part of me wanted to keep walking, to let the past stay where it belonged. But another part, the one shaped by Carter's kindness, knew the weight of carrying grudges. You hurt me, I said simply. More times than you probably realize. Madison nodded, eyes dropping. I know, and I'm sorry, honestly. I studied her for a moment. Her voice wasn't defensive. It wasn't sarcastic. It was real. Thank you, I said finally. I accept that. Relief loosened her shoulders. She stepped back as Carter squeezed my hand gently and leaned in to whisper, You handled that perfectly. The reception that followed was alive, string lights swaying above the deck, guests laughing, music playing, the ocean glowing under the moon. Carter spun me around during our first dance, lifting me slightly off the ground as the crowd cheered. You happy? He whispered. I smiled up at him. More than I ever imagined. Later, we stepped onto the private overlook above the water. The night air wrapped around us as hundreds of headlights shimmered like stars scattered across the cliffside. This is all for you, Carter said. For us, I corrected. For us, he repeated with a grin. My phone vibrated once more, this time with a single message from Madison. I'm proud of you. Truly. I slipped the phone away. The message mattered, but it wasn't what defined me. This moment did. This piece did. This love did. As Carter pulled me into his arms, the wind brushing my veil, I realized something. Revenge hadn't been the luxury cars, or the views, or the audience. Revenge was becoming the version of myself they never believed I could be. A version who didn't need anyone's approval, only her own. And with that, my story didn't just end beautifully. It finally began.
The sound ripped through the driveway like a blade. Screech! My heart plummeted as I spun around just in time to see my younger sister, Megan, scrape the side of my brand-new black SUV against the garage wall. A long silver scar stretched across the paint, glaring at me in the sunlight like a wound. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Megan, I shouted, rushing forward, my pulse racing. What did you just do? She climbed out of the driver's seat with a smirk, brushing her blonde hair back as if she'd done nothing wrong. Relax, Claire. It still works. It's not like I totaled it. Her voice dripped with mockery, as though years of my sacrifice, saving, and hustling meant nothing. My throat tightened. That's not the point. You don't just... Before I could finish, my mom stepped out of the kitchen door, arms crossed, lips curved in a familiar, dismissive smile. Oh, stop it, Claire, Mom said, chuckling under her breath. She didn't mean to. Don't blow this out of proportion. The words landed like daggers. My SUV wasn't just a car. It was the symbol of everything I'd worked for. Every late shift, every skipped meal, every night I told myself that one day I'd have something of my own. That vehicle was my pride, my proof that I wasn't the failure they painted me to be. But in this family, Megan could do no wrong, and my victories were always minimized. Megan smirked wider, tossing her keys into her hand. Seriously, Claire, don't cry. Nobody cares about scratches. Nobody cared. That was the cruel truth echoing in my head. My nails dug into my palms as I fought the tears burning in my eyes. My chest ached with unspoken words, the kind I'd learned to swallow since childhood. And then, the front door creaked open. Ethan, my husband, stepped in, his tall frame commanding the space instantly. His eyes locked on me first, noticing the tears I tried to blink away, then flicked to the SUV in the driveway. His jaw set like stone. What happened? His voice was low but sharp, the kind of tone that made everyone freeze. Megan snorted. It's just a scratch. No big deal. Mom chuckled again, waving her hand. Exactly. Claire is overreacting as usual. Megan didn't mean to. But Ethan didn't smile. He didn't shrug. He turned slowly, his gaze slicing through their arrogance like a knife. Then I guess, he said, voice calm yet heavy enough to silence the air. It's time to explain whose car that really was. The room went still. Megan's smirk faltered. Mom's confidence cracked. My heart hammered in my chest, because the truth Ethan was about to reveal would shatter every illusion they held about me. The silence that followed Ethan's words was deafening. Even the ticking clock on the wall seemed louder, each second slicing through the tension. Megan forced a laugh, flipping her hair. What's that supposed to mean? It's Claire's car, isn't it? She probably saved her waitress tips for years to buy it. Her voice dripped with cruelty, each word meant to cut me down. My fists clenched, but Ethan stepped closer, his gaze fixed on her. You think you're entitled to treat it like a toy because you assume it's Claire's? You're wrong. Mom frowned, confusion flashing across her face. Ethan, don't be ridiculous. She worked 2 jobs for that car, didn't she? We all know it's hers. Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile, but it wasn't amusement, it was steel. No, Karen. That SUV isn't Claire's, it's mine. Megan blinked, caught, off guard. Yours? Then why let her drive it? Because I wanted her to have it, Ethan replied, his voice calm but firm. Because she deserves more than she's ever been given in this family. That SUV was a gift, a statement, and you treated it like garbage. My throat tightened. I'd known Ethan bought the SUV in my name, but hearing him defend me with such force, in front of the people who never valued me, sent a tremor through my chest. Mom's smirk faltered, replaced by irritation. Oh, come on, Ethan. It's not that deep. Megan made a mistake. Don't turn this into a morality lecture. But Ethan didn't budge. He stepped closer to the two of them, his presence almost suffocating in the room. It is that deep. You laugh when Claire's hurt. You minimize her struggles. You've turned every achievement of hers into a punchline. But you're quick to excuse Megan's carelessness no matter how much damage she causes. Megan scoffed, trying to regain her footing. You're acting like I crashed it into a pole. It's a scratch. Get over it. Ethan's eyes hardened. That's the problem. You think everything can be brushed aside. But let me make this clear. You didn't just scratch a car. You disrespected what Claire has worked for, what she's endured. And you disrespected me by treating my gift to her like it meant nothing. The words slammed into the room like thunder. Megan looked away, her arrogance cracking. Mom's jaw tightened, as if she couldn't find the right excuse fast. Enough? I stood frozen, my chest burning with a mix of vindication and grief. For once, someone was saying out loud everything I'd kept buried, every injustice, every dismissal, every time I'd been made to feel small in my own family. You're overreacting, Mom muttered, her voice weaker now. No, Ethan said, sharply. I'm finally reacting, because Claire has stayed quiet too long, and it's time this family understood that silence doesn't mean weakness. My breath hitched. Tears pricked my eyes, but this time they weren't from humiliation. They were from the power of finally being seen. Megan shifted uncomfortably, her bravado gone. So what? You want me to apologize? She muttered, Ethan's voice dropped low. No, I don't want forced words. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. If this SUV isn't respected, then neither of you will ever step near it again. And if you can't treat Claire with the respect she deserves, then don't expect to be welcome in our lives moving forward. The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't confusion. It was fear. Mom's face tightened, her pride battling with the reality of Ethan's words. Megan stayed quiet, for once unable to come up with a snide remark. And me. I stood there, my hands trembling. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. For the first time, I felt like maybe this was the beginning of something different. The weight of Ethan's words hung heavy in the air. My sister's smirk had vanished, and even Mom looked unsettled, her arms still folded but not as steady as before. For once, they weren't laughing at me. They were cornered. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering in my ears. I'd spent years biting my tongue, letting insults slide, letting humiliation roll off me. But Ethan's defense lit something inside me, a fire that refused to be smothered anymore. I stepped forward. You know, what? My voice trembled at first, but then it grew stronger. I've stayed quiet because I thought silence kept the peace. But peace doesn't exist when only one person is expected to sacrifice for it. Mom blinked, surprised by my tone. Megan rolled her eyes, but the flush in her cheeks betrayed her. All my life, I continued, you've belittled everything I've done. Every job, every milestone, every moment I was proud of. You laughed. You acted like I was lucky to exist in your shadow. But today, I realized something. I took a shaky breath. The only reason you laugh is because deep down you're terrified. Terrified that maybe I'm stronger than you ever wanted me to be. Don't start with the dramatics, Claire, Mom snapped, her voice sharp but cracking at the edges. This isn't drama, I shot back louder this time. This is truth. Megan, you think scratching my SUV is nothing, but it's not about the car. It's about the years of disrespect, the years of taking and never giving back. And Mom, every time you excuse her, you tell me I don't matter. Well, I do. I matter more than you'll ever admit. Megan's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, she looked small, like the arrogance she wore had slipped right off her shoulders. Ethan placed his hand lightly on my back, grounding me, but he didn't interrupt. His silence was his support. I turned my gaze directly on my mom. You always said family comes first, but you never treated me like family. You treated me like an afterthought, the one who was supposed to endure everything quietly. That ends today. The room went still. My words echoed like a verdict. Mom opened her mouth, searching for control. You're being ungrateful, Claire. We've given you everything. Everything? I cut her off, my voice rising with years of bottled pain. What exactly did you give me? Constant comparison to Megan. Being told I wasn't good enough no matter how hard I worked? You didn't give me love. You gave me lessons in survival. And now I've survived long enough to finally stand here and say, I don't need your approval anymore. The fire in sea. My chest spread to my throat, my words sharper than I'd ever dared before. Megan muttered, You're just overreacting. I snapped my gaze to her. No, Megan, I'm done underreacting. You've coasted on excuses, on being the golden child, but one day excuses won't cover you. You'll realize life isn't about who laughs the loudest. It's about who stands the tallest when no one else will. Ethan's voice finally joined mine, steady and final. Claire has given this family more grace than you deserve. But she's not going to carry your disrespect anymore. From this moment forward, things change. Either you learn to respect her, or you lose her. The silence afterward wasn't just heavy, it was suffocating. Mom's jaw worked, but no words came out. Megan's eyes darted toward the scratched SUV, then back at me, as though she realized for the first time that her actions had real consequences. And me? For the first time in my life, I wasn't the quiet one in the corner. I wasn't the girl, holding back tears. I was the woman who had finally spoken, finally fought, finally claimed her worth, and I wasn't going back. The air was thick enough to choke on. My mother's face had gone pale, her lips pressed tight, while Megan's bravado had crumbled into silence. For once, I wasn't the one standing small in their presence. I drew in a slow breath, steadying myself. Ethan's right. Things change now. I've spent years letting your words cut me down, but not anymore. I've built a life outside this house, one that you never cared to see. And from this day forward, I won't let you trample over it. Ethan's hand squeezed mine firmly, and that small gesture gave me the strength to continue. Mom scoffed, but the crack in her voice betrayed her. So what, Claire? You're just going to cut us off? Over a car? I shook my head. This was never about the car. It's about respect. It's about dignity. You could have asked me how much that SUV meant to me. You could have apologized. But instead, you laughed. You always laugh when it comes to me. Well, the laughter ends here. Megan's voice finally broke the silence, smaller than I'd ever heard it. So, what do you want? Do you want me to beg? To say sorry? I turned to her, my tone firm but calm. I don't want words, Megan. I want growth. I want you to realize that carelessness isn't cute, that taking people for granted has consequences, and that I'm not your punching bag anymore. Her eyes flickered, guilt flashing briefly before she looked away. Ethan stepped in, his voice sharp but even. Here's the bottom line. Claire deserves more than excuses. If you can't offer her real respect, then stay out of her life. Because we're done entertaining people who only show up to tear her down. The statement hit like a hammer. Mom flinched, her pride visibly crumbling. Megan sank back into the couch, staring at the floor. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the distant hum of the refrigerator and the faint rustle of the trees outside. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath. I finally exhaled and said the words I'd been too afraid to speak my whole life. You don't get to decide my worth anymore. I do. And I refuse to spend another day being treated as less. The relief that surged through me was indescribable. It wasn't just about defending my car or even my dignity. It was about reclaiming every piece of myself they had tried to strip away. Mom shifted, her voice quieter now. Claire, you're being harsh. I shook my head. No, Mom. I'm being honest. Something you never allowed me to be without ridicule. Ethan wrapped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. His steady presence reminded me I wasn't alone in this fight. Not anymore. I looked at Megan one last time. You think everything's a joke until reality smacks you in the face. Maybe this will be your wake-up call. But whether you change or not, I'm done sacrificing myself just so you can feel better. Her lips parted as if to reply, but no words came out. I turned toward the door, my chest rising with a strength I hadn't known before. Ethan followed, his hand warm against mine. As we stepped outside, the scratch on the SUV caught my eye again, the scar gleaming in the sunlight. But for once, it didn't make me feel powerless. Instead, it felt symbolic, like the mark of a battle fought and won. The SUV still stood, strong and unbroken, just like me. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather hugging me like armor. Ethan climbed in beside me, and for the first time in years, I drove away from my mother's house without the weight of their voices dragging me down. Because now, they knew, and I would never let them forget.